All right, guys, today I'm gonna show you what I do when I change the oil, the engine oil, the front differential fluid or gear oil, and then the rear differential oil also. I wanted to go out and do another ride, share a video with you that way, but the weather sucks. It's been every time it's my day off on Monday, I've been getting terrible weather, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity for me to take care of this. So what I wanted to do, first of all, is give you a qualifier. I am not a mechanic. I just go with what I know. I've done the service on my bikes for a long time, and I haven't had a problem, and I'm just following the recommendations that are in the service manual or the owner's manual, and then I also follow the recommendations that the dealer that I bought it from gives me. I use the genuine Suzuki stuff as much as possible. So if you're doing this, when you're doing your oil, you're gonna need the oil filter. I think it was like 13 bucks or something. This is the part number. I'll hold it up here. Hopefully it'll focus on it so you can get a look at that. Anyway, your dealership will be able to get that for you. You probably can order it online too. The engine oil that I'm using is this GNC4 Honda stuff. I don't know if it's the best in the world, but this is what my dealer recommends. This is when they build all the new bikes. This is what they put in them. It's a 1040 with the SJ designation, which is one of those listed in the book that meets the requirements for it. So you'll need 3 of these. So buy 3. It doesn't take 3, but you're going to need more than 2. So when you do it, get that. Then the wet brake and rear differential is going to use this oil here. This is the one that they tell me. There's probably lots of them out there, but this is the Kawasaki one. It says gear and wet brake oil and final drive fluid. So you'll just need one of those. And then for the front differential, it takes more of a regular gear oil. So it's a Hypoid 80-90 gear oil. This is the one, when I asked them what I should get, this is what they told me. I also went to Harbor Freight and just bought this little gear oil pump, it works really well. I would recommend getting it. It was $4, works good, and I'll show you how. Rather than go through and actually show all the fluid coming out and going in, I'm just gonna basically walk you through some of the things you're gonna need. That's the supplies as far as the oil filter and the different oils you're gonna need. Just one of these is all you'll need for the front diff, one for the back, and then you'll need those 3 quarts of oil. The tools that you're gonna need, I just use a 3/8" drive socket or wrench, and with an extension. The extension helps you when you're up under here doing that front differential. When you're doing the front differential, you're gonna need a few things. You need this one is the only one I have, but you don't need a deep socket, just a regular socket, but it's big. It's 21 millimeter for the drain plug on that front diff. So make sure you have one of those ready. Then you're gonna need a 10 millimeter Allen wrench. And so I just got one that goes on the 3/8" drive. I use that extension and I can get in there and do that. So you'll need that. And then, I got these rolling all over. You're gonna need a 10 millimeter socket to remove the skid plates that are down there. There's like 10 different bolts that all use that same one. And then I take off the A-arm guard on the right side that helps me get to that front diff, and that's also 10 millimeters, so you'll need that. And then the drain plug for the engine oil takes a 17 millimeter socket, and the rear differential takes a 19. I don't know why they couldn't have made them all the same. They want to keep you running to the store. You know, you get in the middle of it. The biggest I had was 17. I had to go back and get the 19, and then anyway, so pain in the butt, but that's what you're going to need. So if you listen up to that, you'll save yourself a trip if you go get it all at once. I also have a Sharpie that I use for working on when you put the engine oil filter back on, you're supposed to give it 2 complete revolutions. This helps you to kind of make an index mark so you know that you've done that. If you turn it the 2 times, it gets it to the right tension on there. So before you get started, I think the best thing to do is to take the skid plates off the bottom. There's really 3. There's one right up here on the front, on the nose of it. It's just a little short one. You don't need to take that one off. But there's the bigger one that hooks to that, and it runs from about here on the bike back to about here. Take that one off. and then take the rear one off that covers the rear differential. Okay guys, here's the pieces that I took off just to make it easier access while you're messing with it. There's 2 skid plates laying there. They're actually in 2 pieces. So there's the big one that you can see that kind of comes from up here. It's got an opening in the front right there. There's one that you're gonna leave on the front of the bike. You won't take it off when you're doing this. And it's got a little tongue that fits into this slot. And so then it runs back here. If I can get up here a little closer, this one lays on top of that one. And so it's actually the rear one that's over the rear differential cover is gonna be on top of, so this one goes on first and then that one. And if you do that, it's good. But you can see all the garbage that's in there. I mean, I just think when you're doing this, you might as well pull it off. It's not essential. You could probably do most of this without it. You just have more of an oil mess. At least the front one. That big hole right there is where the engine oil plug is. So you could drain the oil right through it. But when you're doing the oil filter, it rides right up about here somewhere. And if you don't take this off, when you spin it off, it's just gonna keep spilling out on here, and then it'll make a mess on the floor and just kind of, I don't know, collect more dirt with the oil. But so I just take it off and then go hose it out and dig the mud out of the channels and things, and so that when you put it back on, it's just cleaner. And not that you care about it being clean down there, but it is a painted frame. And so if you got a lot of dirt and sand and rocks and things, they'll abrade the bottom of the frame, wear the paint off, and then you're more susceptible to rust. So if you ride in this kind of stuff, I think it just pays off to do it. This one I didn't clean off, and you can see all the stuff. There's weeds and dirt and all kind of garbage that's in there, and even a pretty good sized rock back there on the back part. But anyway, take them off. That way you can clean them up and get a chance to inspect the frame, wipe the frame down. And okay, so to change the oil, all you're gonna do is you can loosen the fill screw right there, or the fill cap. Loosen that up, take it out if you want. It has the dipstick attached to it. Then you're gonna break loose the bottom drain plug, which is down under here. Here's a drain plug, it's right, boy, see if I get my, right there. And that's that one that's 17 millimeters. So just bust that loose, put your drain pan right down here, and then just let it drain. Then you'll come in the front. You have to have this panel moved out of the way. It's just 3 little pins. There's one here, and then there's one on the other side of this fender, which is this one right here. So you have to pull that one. And then there's one right down there. You pull that one out of there also. So you pull those 3, then this whole black piece will come out, and then you'll be able to see your oil filter in there. It's a lot easier to get to. And I'll just tell you, you ought to save yourself a headache and go order the oil filter wrench that's made for those Suzuki oil filters. I had a lot of different kind of wrenches and I was having a hard time with it. So just order the tool I ordered. So once your oil's drained out the bottom, you'll need to spin this filter off. All right, so once you've allowed everything to drain, you've got your oil filter off, it's drained out. You put your new one back on, you got your drain plug back in. Then you need to make sure that you get your fresh oil filter tightened up properly. So this is where that Sharpie comes into play. You can kind of see a mark I made on the flange that the filter mounts to. I made first I just spun the oil filter on. The directions tell you to spin it on. You'll feel it spinning real freely, and all of a sudden you'll feel the gasket on it start to engage that mounting flange. And you just feel a tiny bit of pressure, and it's obvious. It's very easy to tell. So I did that, and when this is kind of where mine stopped, was like right here. And I used that line on the oil filter. There's just that little straight line where you can see right there. And then I just kind of carried it over and scribed a line on the flange. So then I knew if I spun it 2 full revolutions, I would end up there again. So you can see that's after 2 full revolutions. So spin it on, that's how tight it's supposed to be. And that gives it the proper torque by doing it that way. Then make sure your drain plug is tight, and then you'll go to fill it. All right, so once you got your oil filter spun back on and tensioned down the proper way, then it's time to fill it. You're just right through the fill hole. Take a longer funnel. It's important to have one that you can get in there with, and then just dump 2 full quarts in. Once you get the 2 full quarts in, keep one of the empty bottles. And what you're gonna do with that empty one is open your 3rd bottle, and then you pour from the 3rd bottle that you just opened into the empty one, and there's a little sight glass on the side. Fill it up right about to the 600 mark, maybe a quarter of the way between the 600 and the 700. That's in milliliters. Your manual will tell you you need a total of 2,500. So you've already put 2 full quarts in, which is 946 plus 946 is 1892. So you need a little over 600 to go to make your 2,500 that you're looking for your starting number. So get that filled up. The way these work is when you have it on a flat surface and you're looking at that sight glass, wherever it reads, if your fluid level comes where we're wanting it, right up above the 600 mark, that means that's what it's got left in the bottle going down. So anyway, then you'll pour that in, and then you're ready to check your oil level. So you'll go ahead and put your drain plug back in, thread that dipstick in there. Make sure you're not cross threading it. Sometimes you got to fiddle with it a little bit, and just make sure that's in there nice and tight. Then you're going to start the engine and let it run for 3 minutes. All right, so after you've let it run for 3 minutes, then you kill the engine, and then you let it sit for 3 minutes, which lets the engine oil drain back from the head back down into the case. Then you're going to take this off, unthread it, just take it all the way out, wipe it with a paper towel so you can see where you're going. And then when you check the oil, you do not thread this back in. You just wipe this off and then dunk it back in. Make sure you're square to it so you're getting a good reading. Then you lift it out and you check the engine oil level. You can see those little hash marks on it. You want to be somewhere toward the top of those hash marks, but not over. Anyway, I had to put a little bit more on mine above the 2,500. I think I tried it a couple more times and just added a little each time. I like it to be toward the top side rather than the bottom, but you definitely don't want to go over. Okay, now we'll kind of take a look at the front differential. I'll get the camera down in here where you can see. So what I did is that little A-arm guard that's right there, it mounts on to those, oops, let's see here. These little, mounts, that's where that A-arm guard mounts onto, and it's just 2 10-millimeter bolts. Anyway, so you're gonna have to use that 10-millimeter Allen head right on this one. That's the fill hole that you're gonna use. So you've got to get that one open, and then this one is how you know when it's full, and I'll explain that in a minute. Let me show you the drain plug on the front diff. So that's the drain plug on the front differential, and again, it's 21 millimeters. It also has a crush washer, so just make sure you don't lose that, or you're gonna need another one. So anyway, what you do is you gotta loosen that little 10-millimeter one on top. Make sure that it's kind of open, because this is thicker oil. And then take off that drain plug on the bottom and just let it dump out. You wanna look for, big metal shavings. You're gonna get shavings, but you just don't want bigger chunks. And also, if you go in the water a lot, they say these things are prone to, they can take water on any bike, can take water into the differential. So if you do a lot of mud riding and in the water, deep river crossings and whatever, probably ought to change that differential fluid more frequently than maybe it's even recommended. It takes a lot of wear and tear, especially if you're an aggressive rider. So if I was you, I'd just go ahead and do it. It's a few bucks, and that it'll save you in the long run. So once it's all dumped out, put that bottom drain plug back in, and then you're going to open this one. It's a 10-millimeter, just a regular bolt, and take that one all the way out. Again, it's got a little washer on it, so don't lose it. And then with this, you're gonna take, that's gonna already be all the way out. That's where you're gonna fill the gear oil in. So when you're pumping it in, you'll just hold that little tube right in there. I left the bottle right on the ground down here below, and I had plenty of room for that to reach in. And then that's out. You pump it until you start seeing the gear oil come out. That thread will just kind of weep right out. When it does that, stop, because it's kind of thick oil. You don't want to keep pumping it. That's supposed to be the level of the gear oil in the front differential. Then you just snug these back up with the 10 millimeter hex and the 10 millimeter socket, and again the 21 millimeter on the drain plug on the bottom. And that's it. Really simple, easy job. And then put your A-arm cover back on and you're ready to go. So the rear differential, the drain plug's right on the bottom. Pretty hard to miss. It's the one that's 19 millimeters, so you can see it right there with that blue on it. That is the drain plug for the rear differential, and the wet brake shares the same oil. So you just break that one free. Again, loosen the top one, which is your fill, which is right there, that black knob right there. Just loosen that one so that it can have a vacuum brake, and then let the gear oil out the bottom into your pan. That one, I think it does have a washer on it too, I can't remember. Anyway, and then this one, to know when it's full, you just take that and you put it in until you see the oil coming up into the threads of where that fill cap goes. And then that's it. When it's full, that's all you got to do. So it was super easy to do this. When you're doing that rear differential, this will help. I didn't want to use that gear oil pump that I bought for this one, because I couldn't clear all the other oil out of it for the front differential. They're different oils and I didn't want to mix it. So I just take this thing. This came with that little pump I bought at Harbor Freight. It's just a little stiff plastic straw, basically. I kind of put it over there. It won't stay on its own, but you can kind of pinch it on like this and then guide it down in there, and that'll get you, it's just tight in there. So this helps to get it in. I could just squeeze the bottle and it would push it right in. It was no problem. This is pretty viscous, it's pretty thin, and flows a lot easier than that other gear oil in the front. So just another tip. That's all you do. It's a pretty simple process to change your own engine oil and filter, your fluid in your front differential, and the gear oil in the rear differential. It's pretty easy. It's easy to do it all at once, because you take off those skid plates off the bottom and that one A-arm guard, and it gives you easy access to everything. Anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you do this. I mean, if you service your bike the way that you should, it'll give you a lot better, longevity. The reliability will be high if you service it the way that the manual tells you to do it. And anyway, you'll get better fun out of it and with less problems. So anyway, thanks for watching.